I am standing in front of the house where I grew up, the place where my family beat me and threw me out like garbage 16 years ago. My hands are trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of everything that happened here. Next to me is Emma, my wife, the woman who saved me when I had nothing left. She squeezes my hand gently, and I take a deep breath. This is the house where Sarah destroyed my life with a single lie, and Emma is her younger sister. We are not here for revenge. We are here for something much more important. We are here to close a chapter that has haunted me for over a decade and a half. Before I tell you what brought me back to the place that destroyed me, I need you to do something for me. Let me know in the comments where you are watching this from. Hit that like button if you have ever been wronged by someone you trusted. And subscribe, because what I am about to tell you is a story about betrayal survival and the unexpected way life brings justice. You need to understand what they did to me that night. Let me take you back 16 years. I was 23 years old, working at my father's construction company in a small town in Ohio. Life was not perfect, but it was good. My dad, Frank, had built the company from nothing, and he was proud of it. My mom, Linda, was the heart of our home, always cooking, always smiling. My older brother, David, was the golden child. He could do no wrong in their eyes. But I did not mind. I loved my family, and I believed they loved me too. I had been working for Dad for 5 years, learning every part of the business. I started as a laborer, carrying supplies, cleaning job sites, doing whatever needed to be done. Over time, I proved myself. I learned how to read blueprints, manage crews, handle clients. Dad would say I had a good head for the work, that I was dependable. I thought that meant something. I thought it meant I had a future there. I was saving money, planning to buy a house, maybe even take over part of the company one day. David was already being groomed to run things, but I thought there would be room for both of us. I thought family came first. That is what Dad always said. And then there was Sarah. We had been together for 2 years. She was beautiful, charming, the kind of person who could walk into a room and make everyone smile. She worked at the local bank, always dressed perfectly, always knew the right thing to say. My mom loved her. She would invite Sarah over for Sunday dinners, ask her opinion on recipes, talk about grandchildren like it was already decided. My dad called her his future daughter-in-law. Even David seemed to like her, which was rare, because David did not like anyone who took attention away from him. I was planning to propose that fall. I had already picked out a ring, a simple diamond on a silver band. I was going to take her to the lake where we had our first date and ask her to marry me. Everything was falling into place. But 2 months before everything exploded, I started noticing small things. Sarah was texting David more than usual. When I asked about it, she smiled and said she was planning a surprise party for my birthday. I believed her. Why would I not? David was my brother. Sarah was my girlfriend. I trusted them both. But Sarah started pulling away. She said she was stressed at work, that her boss was demanding that she needed space. I gave it to her. I did not want to be the kind of guy who suffocated his girlfriend. One night, I came home early from a job site. I saw David's truck parked outside Sarah's apartment. My stomach twisted, but I told myself it was nothing. I went upstairs and knocked. Sarah answered, looking flustered. David was in the living room, tools spread out on the floor. He said he was fixing her kitchen sink. I looked at the sink. It was not broken, but I did not say anything. I just nodded, kissed Sarah on the cheek, and left. I did not want to think the worst about the 2 people I loved most. I did not want to believe they could betray me. David avoided me for a few days after that. When I asked if everything was okay, he shrugged and said he was busy. I let it go. I should not have. It was a Friday night in August. I had been working late at a site on the edge of town, pouring a foundation for a new garage. I was covered in dust and sweat when my phone rang. It was my dad. His voice was hard, colder than I had ever heard it. He told me to come home immediately. He did not explain. He just said, "Get here now." I drove as fast as I could, my mind racing through every possible reason he would sound like that. Maybe someone was hurt. Maybe something happened to Mom. When I walked through the door, the whole family was in the living room. Dad was standing by the fireplace, his arms crossed his face red. Mom was sitting on the couch, her hands covering her mouth, tears streaming down her face. David was leaning against the wall, his jaw clenched. And Sarah was in the middle of the room, crying. Her shirt was torn at the collar. Her mascara was running down her face. Her hands were shaking. I had never seen her like that. I took a step forward confused, and my dad's voice stopped me cold. "What the hell did you do to her?" I stared at him. I did not understand. Due to her, I have been at work all day. What are you talking about? Sarah looked up at me, her eyes wet and red, and she started talking. Her voice was broken, shaking, and every word felt like a punch to my chest. She said I had come to her apartment that afternoon. She said I had demanded we sleep together. When she refused, she said I forced myself on her. She said I held her down. She said she begged me to stop, but I did not listen. She said she managed to break free and run out of the apartment, and that is when she called David. She said David came and found her outside sobbing and brought her here. I could not breathe. The room was spinning. I looked at my dad, at my mom, at David, and all I saw was disgust. I tried to speak, but my voice came out weak. That is not true. I was not there. I was at the construction site all afternoon. You can check the timesheet. David pushed off the wall and stepped toward me. I already checked. Your truck was gone from 2 until 5. I shook my head. I went to the hardware store. I needed materials. We ran out of rebar, so I drove out to the supplier in Ashford. That is 30 miles away. I was gone for 3 hours, but I was not at Sarah's place. I swear. Dad's voice cut through the air like a knife. No receipt, no witness, just your word against hers. And I know who I believe. I looked at my mom desperate. She would not meet my eyes. She just kept crying, shaking her head like she could not believe what she was hearing. Mom, please. You know me. I would never do this. Why would I hurt her? I love her. Sarah let out a loud sob and buried her face in her hands. David put his arm around her shoulders, glaring at me. You are sick. We just did not see it before. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I will call the police. They can check everything. They can pull security footage from the hardware store. They can talk to the supplier. I can prove I was not there. Sarah screamed. No, I do not want everyone to know. I do not want this to go public. I just want him to admit what he did. Dad stepped forward and ripped the phone out of my hand. You are not calling anyone. We handle this as a family. I stared at him, my heart breaking. Dad, please. I am your son. Do you really think I could do something like this? David stepped closer, and I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Hatred. Because you are a monster, and we were too blind to see it. Then my dad hit me. His hand came across my face so hard that I tasted blood. The room went silent, except for my mom's crying. I stood there, my cheek burning, my ears ringing, and I heard my father say the words that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Get out of my house. You are no son of mine. I tried to speak, but before I could get a word out, David's fist slammed into my jaw. I went down hard, my head bouncing off the hardwood floor. Pain exploded through my skull. I could taste blood pooling in my mouth, feel my eye already starting to swell. I tried to get up, but David kicked me in the ribs. The air left my lungs in a rush. I curled up, trying to protect myself, but he did not stop. He kicked me again and again, shouting the whole time, "This is for what you did to her. Did to... You make me sick." I looked up at my dad, begging him with my eyes to make it stop. But he just stood there, his face twisted in disgust, watching his oldest son beat me like I was nothing. My mom turned away. She could not even look at me. And Sarah stood in the corner, her arms wrapped around herself, watching. For just a second I caught her eye, and I swear I saw something there that was not pain or fear. It was satisfaction. David grabbed me by the collar and dragged me toward the door. My ribs screamed in protest. I could feel at least 2 of them cracked, maybe broken. My eye was swollen shut. Blood dripped from my nose onto the floor, leaving a trail behind me. He opened the front door and threw me down the steps. I landed hard on the concrete walkway, my shoulder taking the brunt of the impact. I lay there, gasping for air rain starting to fall around me. I heard my dad's voice one last time, cold and final. "Do not ever come back. You are dead to us." Then the door slammed shut, and I was alone. I do not know how long I lay there. Minutes maybe, hours maybe. The rain soaked through my clothes, mixing with the blood on my face. Eventually, I managed to crawl to my truck. Every movement sent fresh waves of pain through my body, but I kept going. I had nowhere else to go. I had been living with my parents, saving money to buy a house. All my savings were in a joint account with Sarah. I had nothing. I drove myself to the hospital. The nurse at the front desk took one look at me and called for a doctor. They ran tests, took X-rays, stitched up the cut above my eyebrow. The doctor asked if I wanted to file a police report. I shook my head. What was the point? My own family did this to me, and they did it because they believed I was a monster. Who would take my side? The diagnosis was 2 broken ribs, a black eye, a fractured cheekbone, and more bruises than I could count. They gave me painkillers and told me to rest. I had no insurance through the company anymore. Dad must have dropped me the second I walked out that door. I paid what I could and left. I spent the next 3 days living in my truck. I parked behind a gas station on the edge of town and tried to figure out what to do. I called a few friends, people I had known since high school, but word had already spread. Roman attacked his girlfriend. Roman is dangerous. No one answered my calls. No one wanted to be associated with me. A week later, I went back to the construction company in the middle of the night. I just wanted to get my tools, my work boots, the jacket I had left in the office. But when I got there, the locks had been changed. I peered through the window and saw that my name had been removed from the employee board. David's name was at the top, now listed as the sole heir to the business. Everything I had worked for, everything I had been promised was gone. I checked my bank account the next morning. The joint account with Sarah had been emptied. $8,700. 5 years of saving every spare dollar I had earned gone. I called Sarah. She did not pick up. I called David. He answered, and I could hear Sarah laughing in the background. I did not say anything. I just listened to her laugh, and then David spoke. "Stop calling. We do not want to hear from you ever again." He hung up. 2 months later, I heard through the grapevine that David and Sarah were engaged. My only remaining friend Marcus called to tell me. He did not know what to believe, but he thought I deserved to know. "Man, I do not know what is true anymore. But your whole family is throwing a big engagement party. Everyone is celebrating." I thanked him and hung up. That is when I knew for sure. It was all planned. Sarah wanted David. She wanted the company, the money, the life that came with being married to the golden child. I was just in the way. So she destroyed me. The wedding happened 3 months later. My dad paid for the whole thing. It was the biggest event the town had seen in years. I was not invited, of course. I heard about it anyway. Everyone did. I made my decision that night. There was nothing left for me in that town but ghosts and lies. I packed what little I had left into my truck and drove west. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I had to leave. I ended up in Portland, Oregon. It was 800 miles from everything I had known, and that felt about right. I arrived with less than $200 in my pocket, no job and no plan. I found work on a construction crew within a week. The pay was terrible, but it was something. I rented a basement studio in a rough part of town. It was small, damp, and smelled like mold, but it was mine. For the first 2 years, I worked 3 jobs. I did construction during the day, stocked shelves at a grocery store at night, and picked up weekend shifts at a warehouse. I lived on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. I saved every penny I could. I did not have a college degree, but I had 5 years of real experience in construction. I knew how to build, how to manage a crew, how to talk to clients. I was not going to let what happened to me define the rest of my life. After 2 years of grinding, I had enough saved to start my own small construction company. I called it Wright Brothers Construction. It had nothing to do with my old life. It was a fresh start. I started small, taking on deck repairs, bathroom remodels, small additions. I worked alone at first, doing everything myself. Every nail I hammered, every wall I built, was proof they were wrong about me. Proof that I was not the monster they thought I was. Slowly, the business grew. I hired my first employee after a year, then another, then another. I worked 12 to 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I did not date. I did not make friends. I did not trust anyone. I poured everything into the work. 10 years after I arrived in Portland, Wright Brothers Construction had 20 employees and was pulling in millions in revenue. I was one of the most respected contractors in the city. People trusted me. They knew I did good work, that I kept my word, that I showed up when I said I would. But I was alone. I had money, I had success, but I had no one to share it with. I told myself I was fine. I told myself I did not need anyone. But the truth was, I was terrified. Terrified of letting someone in. Terrified of being hurt again. Terrified of trusting the wrong person. Then, 14 years after I left Ohio, I met Emma. It was a random Thursday afternoon, and I had stopped at a coffee shop near my office to grab lunch. She was sitting at the table next to mine, working on a laptop headphones, and completely absorbed in whatever she was designing. I accidentally knocked over my coffee, and it spilled across the floor, barely missing her bag. I apologized, embarrassed, and she looked up and smiled. "Do not worry about it. Happens to me all the time." We started talking. She was a graphic designer, mid-20s, funny, easy to talk to. She did not ask about my past, did not pry. We just talked about normal things. Movies, music, the terrible weather in Portland. When I left, I realized I had not felt that relaxed around another person in over a decade. I went back to that coffee shop the next day, hoping to see her again. She was there. We talked again. This time, I asked for her number. We started dating slowly. Coffee dates, walks in the park, dinners, at quiet restaurants. Emma was different from anyone I had ever known. She was grounded, honest kind. She did not play games. She did not try to manipulate or control. She just was herself, and she let me be myself. For the first time in 14 years, I felt like I could breathe. 3 months into our relationship, we were having dinner at her apartment when she mentioned her family. I have an older sister, Sarah. We are not close. I froze my fork halfway to my mouth. Sarah. What is her last name? Emma looked at me, confused by my reaction. Connolly. Well, it was. She got married a long time ago. Her last name is Parker now. Why? The room started spinning. Parker. David's last name. I set down my fork, my hands shaking. Emma, where did Sarah grow up? She frowned. A small town in Ohio. Why do you know her? I could not breathe. I stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the street below. Emma came up behind me, her voice soft. Roman, what is wrong? You look like you have seen a ghost. I turned to face her, and I made a decision. I told her everything. I told her about Sarah, about the lie, about the beating, about losing my family, and everything I had. I told her about the wedding, about running about the 14 years I had spent trying to rebuild. I did not leave anything out. When I finished, I waited for her to tell me to leave, to say she did not believe me, to say I was crazy. But she did not. She just stood there, looking at me with tears in her eyes. Then she said, Roman, I believe you, and I think I can prove Sarah lied. She told me a story I had never heard. When Sarah was 19 and Emma was 16, Emma had been dating a boy named Jack. He was kind, respectful, a good kid. Sarah got jealous. She accused Jack of making inappropriate advances toward her. Their parents believed Sarah without question. They kicked Jack out of the house, told him never to come back, threatened to call the police if he contacted Emma again. Emma knew it was a lie, but she was too young, too powerless. No one listened to her. Sarah and Emma had barely spoken since. Sarah always wanted what other people had, Emma said quietly. When she saw that David had more than you, she made her move. She took what she wanted, and she did not care who she destroyed in the process. I looked at her, this woman I had known for only 3 months, and I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know you were not crazy. And because I have been waiting 16 years to stand up to her." Emma and I got married a year later. It was a small ceremony, just a few close friends, nothing fancy. But it was perfect. She was perfect. For the first time since I was 23 years old, I felt like I had a family again. Not the family I was born into, but the family I chose. Sarah found out through a mutual relative. She called Emma furious. "You married him. Do you know what he did to me?" Emma's voice was calm, colder than I had ever heard it. "I know what you did, Sarah, and it is over." She hung up. Sarah did not call back. Emma and I talked about whether we should go back to Ohio. Part of me wanted to stay away, to let the past stay buried. But another part of me needed closure. I needed to face them, not for revenge, but to prove to myself that I had survived, that I was stronger than what they did to me. So we drove back. 16 years after I left, I stood in front of the house where I grew up. My hands were shaking. Emma squeezed my hand, and we walked up to the door. I knocked. My mom answered. When she saw me, the color drained from her face. Roman. My dad appeared behind her. He looked older, grayer, smaller somehow. He did not say anything. David and Sarah were there too. They had been visiting apparently. They still lived nearby. When Sarah saw Emma standing next to me, her face went white. I did not yell. I did not scream. I just looked at them, these people who had once been my whole world, and I said, "I just came to tell you I forgive you. All of you." My dad blinked. "What, I forgive you? I spent 16 years being angry. But I am not that person anymore. I have a good life. I have a wife who loves me. I have a business I built from nothing. You cannot take that away from me." I looked at Sarah. "And you got what you wanted. I hope it was worth it." I did not wait for a response. Emma and I turned and walked away. We got in the car and drove back to Portland. I did not look back. On the drive home, Emma asked if I was okay. I thought about it for a long time. Then I nodded. "Yeah? For the first time in 16 years, I really am. I learned something important through all of this. Some people will believe the worst about you without question. That is on them, not you. You cannot control what others think or do. You can only control who you become. The best revenge is not revenge at all. It is living well. It is building a life so good that the people who tried to destroy you become irrelevant. I do not know if my family ever realized the truth. Maybe Sarah confessed, maybe she did not. It does not matter anymore. I learned that family is not just about blood. It is about who stands by you when the world turns its back. And Emma, she is all the family I need. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Have you ever had to rebuild your life from nothing? Drop a comment and tell me your story. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about survival and second chances. And share this with someone who needs to hear that they can overcome anything. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that no matter how dark things get, you have the power to build something beautiful on the other side. Stay strong out there.